Hey, what's up, Life Without Pants with another Path of Exile video. And in today's video, we're going to talk about our build guide for 3.23. I just had some sleep after watching the reveal. Ultimatum's back. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And I mean, the Challenge League looks really, really interesting. We've got an ascendency that we're going to probably go with as well. I think it's the Wildwood. I think it's the Wildwood one. It's this one, the Wildwood Primalist. I mean, charms and... Yo, we get the Warcry's open chests. we can open stuff. So that, I think I'm probably going to take that. But let's get into this build guide. If you like this kind of stuff, come and check us out on twitch.tv/lifewithoutpants. We're live every day. And we're running this build constantly. We're just doing 2 Voidstone runs again and again and again. So we're doing Eater and Exarch runs with this build again and again and again. Just to test it, to refine it, to make sure it's good. We're sitting around 10, 11 hours. I'm not the fastest, Path of Exile player in the world, but regardless. So I'm going to split this video up into, skill tree, skills, items, and then on the subject of items, I've got a loot filter. So I've been using Tytykiller's ranged loot filter, but I've modified it a bit. So that's going to be in the description if you want to yoink that, or it's going to be, shared. And I've added some custom sounds, which is me just shouting into the microphone. We'll get into that later on. So this is a very capable farmer. Things that this cannot do, this build is, or not cannot do, but is not very good at is, I would say, doing like uber bosses. It's not great at bossing in general. It can do, you could do your quest eater and your exarch pretty dang easily. And this is on... We've been doing this on solo self-found gear, so we've been reliant on picking up a good bow or trying to craft one with the 0 essences that we find. So it's very capable of doing your first 2 Voidstones easy peasy lemon squeezy, or I mean, I don't 6 portal them most of the time. And it's fantastic at mapping. It's absolutely, it really shines when it comes to mapping. I'm going to probably be... I see Dunes is still on the Atlas, so maybe we're going to go back to the Sand Prison and do Legion Dunes for our League Start currency strat. But regardless, you get up off the beach as a ranger, and this is what our Act 1... I've got this, I've got all the acts here and some white map, yellow map, crit swap trees. So, starting off, you just make a beeline straight over here to ballistics, and then after that we're gonna take aspect to the eagle, which is really good. It's got damage and attack speed and accuracy, which is fantastic for a bow build. We're coming down through primal spirit because we get 20 strength and intelligence, which is really good because it means we can run frostblink and like any skill that requires strength and intelligence, because the ranger is not the smartest or the strongest, but has the most heart. And then we're coming down to finesse, so there's more accuracy. We're going to take one with nature first. Now, this is a flex choice, honestly, for Act 1, because at this point, you're going to be killing Merveil. We eventually go for precise technique, so you don't actually have to take these 2. You could just come down and take precise technique, and you'd have to be level 14. But I kind of like taking these 2. It's very comfy. It makes it very, very comfy to start off with this way. And then once we get into Act 2, we're going to start killing the bandits. Oh, that's the wrong way around. Start killing the bandits. I chose to kill all the bandits because I like the skill points. If you were going to choose something else, you'd choose a Lyra, probably, because you get crit multi, which is great. And you get all resistances, which makes gearing a lot more, more safe as well. But the important thing is, we're coming down here, we're taking precise technique. And precise technique gives us 40% more attack damage if our accuracy rating is higher than our maximum life. And we never deal crits. And there's a way to see your accuracy rating. Let me just go into the game here. But there's a really easy way to see your accuracy rating and your life in the same panel. So the accuracy rating has always got to be higher. If I just press C for my character, then you can see down here, whereas my main hand accuracy rating is 935, which doesn't sound very good, but it's because I don't have any auras on. because I'm in town. But our accuracy rating has to be a lot higher than our life pool. So I don't have it on this character, but I've got, 3,847 life, and then here we see my accuracy rating is 2,664. Now, I'm not using precise technique on this character, but for our build, for our 3.23 League starter, precise technique is such a good keystone for such a long time as well. I usually keep it on right up until I'm about to kill Eater Exarch. Sometimes when I do kill Eater Exarch, because I haven't found the right bow yet to make the crit swap. So we just want to make sure that our accuracy rating is higher than our maximum life. And with this tree, you're pretty much always guaranteed to be there. If you take precision as well from Tytykiller in Act 1 and keep that on, you're always going to be there. But just check every so often. I like to give myself a bit of a comfortable boost to accuracy. Oh no, I'm going to hit monsters too frequently. Oh, what a shame. So that's really, really useful. This, we're going to take 100 to accuracy rating per green socket on our equipped bow. And that means that we're going to have, it's going to be super easy to maintain our precise techniques. And we're taking Farsight over here. We're taking this little node here, 10% chance to gain phasing for 4 seconds on kill. That means that, frequently, 10% of the time when you kill something, you'll get phasing and you'll just be able to walk through monsters. And you won't have to worry about a quartz flask or anything like that. I mean, quartz flask is better, but this is a great little node to take for 1 point until you get a quartz flask. So coming on to Act 3, at this point, we would be going over here to take this health, and then you can unspec this dex node here. Taking quick step as well, because 6% move speed. Frequently, I find that I have not got any move speed boots, and that's really frustrating. So I take the quick step. Sometimes I take it, in Act 1 as well, because I still don't have any quick step boots, or movement speed boots, runner's boots as they're called. We're taking the armor and evasion and onslaught effect nodes down here, and that means that I think it's 10% chance to gain onslaught for 4 seconds on kill, and you really notice this when you're running through the campaign. When you get the onslaught, it's onslaught is 20% increased attack, cast, and movement speed. So you get just a boost of 20% movement speed. You'll just suddenly be zooming through, and then you get the attack speed as well. It's very nice. We're coming over here and we're taking plus 50 life mastery. Now this is using the 322 tree, this POB. I saw from Local Identity, the guy who makes Path of Building, that he had updated it, updated the tree. So, I mean, I've checked for updates, and I seem to be running the latest version. So I'm not sure. I will update this POB when an update becomes available. But yeah, we're taking some extra life over in Act 3, so that's going to help our survivability a little bit. And then when it comes to Act 4, we're going to take some extra life down here. We're taking the blind chance nodes over here, because this means that we're going to get a very decent, I think it's 30% chance to blind enemies on hit with attacks. And blinded enemies are way less accurate. They hit you less often, so it's really good for bosses. Now, we're also taking this acuity node down here, so we get lots and lots of accuracy to make sure that, we're taking these life nodes too. So to make sure that our accuracy is constantly higher than our life, so that our precise technique is working. We're also taking our first lab. So we're going to go through first lab. I usually get to the crystal veins in Act 4, meet Lady Diala, I do Calm's dream and Dresso's dream, and then I go and do lab. Go and do the first lab, and we're taking Gathering Winds because you get Tailwind, and it's really, really good. Somebody recently in chat was suggesting that at level 28 go and do lab, and I mean, that's a little, because there's lots of straight areas after level 28, and Tailwind really is noticeable there. I prefer to do it. I'm going to try it out. We're going to experiment, but yeah. Tailwind, really, really, really good. Just increased action speed. So that increases your attack speed, that increases your movement speed, increases your actions doing stuff. So once you're done with Act 4, you go into Act 5, and we're taking this node here, the Bow Mastery. I went for 100% increased Mirage Archer duration. We want that extra arrow, though, here, because that really, really helps us out. You can, and there are a few other things you could go for here. Increases and reductions to projectile speed also applied to damage with bows is pretty dang useful, too. Honestly, it depends on what kind of gear you're picking up. I would suggest that for these, though, like, accuracy per green socket on bow is really decent, because it allows you to just, you know, make sure that precise technique is always going to be effective, and increased Mirage Archer duration is just really, really nice. It's big quality of life, and I'm a huge quality of life fan. Like, I really, really prefer quality of life on the tree if I can take it, because it just makes playing the game more fun and feel better, and I like that. That's what I'm into that. So coming into Act 6, you've met Lily, and you're gonna get access to all skill gems. Really, really big for us. We're gonna take these bow and crit strike chances. Now, it's not necessarily for the crit strike chance, but you know, this aspect of the links is increased move speed. We've got increased attack damage here. We're coming down here and we're taking this totem mastery wheel. So watchtowers gives you +1 totem. And we're taking the left-hand side here because this is attack speed for totems. Later on when we go crit, we're going to swap this to this side like this. But for now, we're going to take the left-hand side of that wheel. When it comes to masteries, there's nothing really here that's amazing and worth a point. Later on, you know, the crit strike chance if you've summoned a totem recently is great. But for now, nothing huge for us to take. Coming into Act 7, we're coming straight up here and we're taking multi-shot. So we're getting an additional projectile. So that means that any Manaforged setup we might have fires extra projectiles. Our main skill, you know, lightning arrow is going to be firing extra projectiles. Our totems are going to be firing extra projectiles. And for artillery ballista, which is a totem skill that we're using after Act 3 onwards, there is a breakpoint where, essentially for shotgunning, where +2 projectiles is very, very important. And we get one here from Master Fletcher, and we get one here from multi-shot. So that's going to make our totems feel even stronger. And then coming into Act 8, we're coming over here, we're taking Clever Thief, so you get Leech, and then 10% of Leech is instant. This Leech node is in such a good position. It's in such a good place, you know, in the game. It's really, really comfortable. At this point, depending on your damage, you can opt to perhaps lose your Mana Flask. I keep mine on for a while. I think I've still got mine on now just because in the SSF run that we've been doing, just because I haven't been paying attention to my flasks, and I should be. We're also taking Blood Drinker, so you get 2% of life on kill and 10% increased max life. That's really nice as well. If you feel that you're dying a lot, or you want more health, then you can take one of these little extra 6% life nodes as well. They're very, very good. This is also where we do our second lab, and this lab is not optional, but it's the choice is yours. So recently I've been going with Ricochet to get the chain, and I found that to be particularly good. And you could also go for Fast Shot. I went for Fast Shot for a long time. Fast Shot is 20% less damage to targets at the start of the movement of the projectiles, and up to 60% more damage as the projectile goes further. And I mean, it can be very, very good. It honestly can be very, very good. I would say, assess where you are with regards to this on the way to your second lab, because I have a tendency to stand like this with the enemies. So Fast Shot for me is a bad idea, because I'll be doing 20% less damage because I'm standing right in front of the enemies. But if you're somebody that stands far away from enemies all the time, then Fast Shot is the one for you. But for me, I think, you know, Ricochet is what I really, really like. And also, projectiles have a 30% chance to be able to chain when colliding with terrain is pretty useful, because the chaining range is good for this build. So once you've done that, we're going into Act 9 now. We're taking this Mark Mastery here because your Mark, we're going to be using Sniper's Mark and Mark on Hit. Marked enemy has 10% reduced accuracy rating. We've got, takes increased damage. The small nodes are quite useful as well. And this 10% chance to gain a frenzy charge when you hit your marked enemy. This is brilliant, provided that you're using Mark on Hit, because then something's always marked. But this is absolutely brilliant because it means that instead of having to use frenzy as a skill, for 1 point on the tree, we can just be pretty much at capped frenzy charges all the time. It's really, really, really good. It's a very strong node, and I would highly recommend it. Coming into Act 10, we're about to go kill Kitava, and our third lab, we're going to be taking Endless Munitions, because Skills Fire 2 additional projectiles is crazy strong. It's like having this Master Fletcher and this multi-shot, but in one node. We're also coming up here and taking Forces of Nature. So our attacks penetrate enemy elemental resistances, and then our mastery is hits have 25% chance to treat enemy monster elemental resistances as inverted. So that means if it had 50% resistance, then there's a 25% chance it's going to be minus 50 resistance, which is crazy good. We're also going to be taking Entrench down here. So we've got just these two nodes here is 17% spell suppression chance. And then we take spell suppress is lucky, or chance to suppress spell damage is lucky. So without this node here, where's my spell suppression over here? It's 62% with the node, and without it's 38. So for 1 point, you really, really get a lot of bang for the buck for as far as spell suppression is concerned. And that's, coming out of the campaign with 62% spell suppress, it's pretty decent. There's, these nodes over here are really, really good. Don't get me wrong. And I think these 3 points will do a lot more for your build. So that's what the campaign looks like. This is, you're going to be level 67 when you're done. And then let's get into white maps. Now we're going to come over here and we're taking this increased aura effect of the charisma wheel. This is going to give us more mana to work with when we are reserving mana for our skills. So depending on what auras you're going to run, the auras are kind of, they're not optional. You should definitely be running auras, but the choices are up to you for this. The only real change here in white maps is adding this in. You could take some other choices with some points, because you get a lot of points pretty early on. This is only level 71. I find usually though that I do a few white maps and I'm zooming into the yellows straight away. So when we get to yellow maps, this is level 76. You're going to take your Uber Lab. So you're going to find a trial, trial of Stinging Doubt, or whichever one it is, one of the lab trials in maps. The lab is different now at the end, with the new gem crafting divine font. That's going to be interesting. Our build is essentially untouched by that. In fact, if anything, it got a little bit of a buff, because Lightning Arrow now can hit more enemies if you have more quality on your gems. Pretty good. But for our Uber Lab, we're going to take Focal Point, and that's going to give us 75% increase effect of our marks, which is huge. And the little node gives you, some extra proj damage as well, which is nice. But your mark transfers to another enemy when marked enemy dies. That's also very, very good, because that means we're constantly going to be adding in, we're going to be bouncing the mark around like a ping pong ball. And the other thing that we're taking here is this evasion and life wheel and revenge of the hunted. And that means we're going to get just loads and loads of free extra, lots and lots of life. We're getting 15% chance to suppress spell damage if equipped. Helmet, body armor, gloves, and boots all have evasion rating. Now, we're a dex build, so it's very likely that these items will have evasion on them. If they don't, you can go to the crafting bench, and on boots, say you don't have any evasion rating on your boots, you can craft it on even if they're strength boots. So you can hack it on a prefix if you don't have it. So a useful tip to know. That's the only real difference into white maps here. And then at some point, you're going to want to perform the crit swap. And the crit swap is going to change the tree somewhat significantly. So if we just compare here, so the crit swap here, the green stuff is stuff that's going to be added in when you use, actually, let's do it the other way around. Let's do the red stuff is stuff that's going to be added in. I never understood why it's red is added in this. But this is around level 86. I found you could do this around 82 as well. Obviously, we're removing precise technique because never deal crit strikes is very difficult on a crit build. So we're taking that off. We're adding in this lethality wheel here. So this is lots and lots of crit strike chance. So, increased crit strike chance around here and crit multi. Like I said from before, we're taking the right side of the totem wheel here. We're removing this accuracy wheel here, and we're adding it in up here because these accuracy gives accuracy and critical strikes as well. So you still get lots of accuracy, you're still going to hit stuff all the time, but then we're taking accuracy and critical strike chance. We're coming along here, we're taking all these bow, crit strike, and crit multi, and then 100% increased crit strike chance with bows from King of the Hill on this side. And we're taking these 3 points here. These are really, really good ones. It's like 25% crit chance, 25% crit chance, and 30 crit multi. Is really, really big. So this is what I would suggest for the crit swap. It's basically the time you want to do this is when you have the right bow for it, and we'll get into that later. So let's talk about skills. Okay, so for skills, obviously we're doing lightning arrow. I've put these here in order of priority, really. Artillery ballista as well. This is the order of priority I would take. So if you have, and then there's a couple of, these are my preferred auras. You could take different ones, but let's talk about the main skill to start off with. So you don't actually start with lightning arrow. You wake up on the beach and you get burning arrow. I take that, I go kill Hillock with it, and then we take caustic arrow until we get to Merveil's Caverns. And caustic arrow, it's really great with Mirage Archer. If you can get lesser multiple projectiles, that's also fine. You could go with Pierce. There's a few different options. But caustic arrow until you get offered lightning arrow once you're inside Merveil's Caverns. And then lightning arrow for the whole rest of the game. And that's it. And if you get a Vaal Orb, Vaal your lightning arrow. As soon as you get a Vaal Orb, you should Vaal your lightning arrow, because you can get Vaal lightning arrow out of that, and that is really good because you get the Vaal version as well. So Vaal version of lightning arrow just does lots of arrows zipping around the screen doing damage. Is really good for single target. I've been average lucky, I would say, when doing this in our solo self-found runs. So I think the slightly quicker versions of these runs that I've been doing have been the ones where I've had Vaal lightning arrow. At League launch, you will be able to pick one of these up within the first hour or two of the game for 1 alchemy. So they're really, really easy to get hold of. If you're doing solo self-found with this build, which you can, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it, then I would probably do some Vaal side areas. I guess you would have to do them from level 12 onwards, because that's when it's going to be droppable. So if you want to try and find a Vaal lightning arrow just naturally or from a Vaal orb, that's how you would do it. So once you've got lightning arrow, then Mirage Archer is the by far and away one of the best supports to have, or the best, I think. Then lesser multiple projectiles, which you upgrade to greater multiple projectiles on Act 4. That's the reward for one of the rewards for killing Malachi. And that's the one I always take from Lady Diala, or is it Oyun? One of the people at the end of Act 4. So I always take greater multiple projectiles. Returning projectiles you can buy from Petrus and Virginia once you've also killed Malachi. So once you kill Malachi, you can go and buy returning projectiles. I think it costs an alchemy. And you can then get for free greater multiple projectiles as your quest reward. Now, Elemental damage with attacks is also great with this. It's just, you know, a bunch more elemental damage. Trinity is also great, but Trinity comes with a big caveat. Trinity is really, really useful when you're doing 2 or 3 elemental damage types with your skill, because Trinity kind of relies on that. So if your bow only has fire damage on it, don't be using Trinity in this. So this is the order I would recommend. Most of the campaign. I think this is the SSF run I'm doing now is the first one where I actually got a 5-link. And I got it in the campaign as well, so I'm really, really happy about that. But most of the time, you're just gonna get, you know, we've done all of our Eta Exarch runs on a 4-link, so, or on a couple of 4-links rather. So that's how I would suggest the setup. This is honestly what my setup looks like probably right now. If we go, let's go and look straight away, so that we can, you know, check myself. So if we go to SSF, I've got this level 73. I think we've just been doing some. This is our current run. Let's see how long we've played for. 6 hours, 6 minutes, and 9 seconds. Okay, so it's a little, and this is what the build looks like. Look at this. It looks, you know, surprising. I've taken piercing shots because I've been experimenting with that right now. But unsurprisingly, the build looks pretty similar. We have done a couple of, we've done a couple of yellow maps in 6 hours. And yeah, here it is. So I've got returning projectiles, I've got greater multiple projectiles, mirage archer, and lightning arrow. So that's what my 4-link looks like here. I've got artillery ballista, added cold, elemental damage, and elemental focus here. So that's what it. That's why I suggest these. It's really, really good. You can do all this stuff on a 4-link. For artillery ballista, now artillery ballista, you don't start with artillery ballista either. You don't start with any ballista. But the first thing you'll be offered is shrapnel ballista. And shrapnel ballista is great. You just take that and you can put down ballistas as you're wandering around. I really love the fact that you can put ballistas down and run away, and enemies will attack the ballistas whilst they're being hit and killed and giving you XP whilst you're running and getting through the campaign. So I really, really enjoy that about the ballistas. This is why I don't take focused ballista, because a lot of my playstyle involves putting the ballistas down and running away. And I know some other versions of this build, they use focused ballista. That's great, but it's not my playstyle, and I value quality of life, so I'm gonna do that. So when you get shrapnel ballista, there's a few things you can throw on that. Added cold damage is probably the best one. And you have shrapnel ballista until Act 3 when you kill Gravitius, and then Maramoa will give you artillery ballista as a reward for killing Gravitius. And once you got artillery ballista, it's really obvious as soon as you get artillery ballista. It's really great single target damage. So artillery ballista and then added cold damage is the priority for me. And then elemental focus you don't get until you get access to Lily in Act 6. So, you know, this one you have to put second. And elemental damage with attacks, obviously you can get that. You can get access to that in Act 2 after you killed Weaver. And this, honestly, this 4-link is great. It's really, really, you know, strong damage, and you can go kill your 2 quest Voidstone, Eta Exarch with it. It's pretty simple. For our auras, I think, you know, precision, obviously we need that because we want to make sure that we constantly have more accuracy than we have life. But grace, I think, is great because it means you just get hit less, you die less. That's, who doesn't want to die less? I'm so good at dying in this game. I'm a professional. So grace, I think, is really good. You get this in Act 3. Herald of Ice, you get in Act 2 as a reward for doing Chamber of Sins, for rescuing Helena. So Herald of Ice is a great early damage herald. It's, you know, it just basically gives you added cold damage to all your attacks. Fantastic. If you have a fire only bow or a fire and lightning bow, then this means that you can probably get some, you know, some closer to equity trinity, I suppose. But precision, obviously you have to have precision. But for grace, I think it's really useful. Sometimes I have grace turned off, and then I turn it on when I know I'm going to be in danger. So say in Act 9 or Act 8. In Act 8, when you're in the bathhouse and you're about to go and do the Yugal, the guy in the god at the end of the terrace, there's all those spinety bros, the porcupines, on the way. So I'll turn grace on for that section, because if I have grace on, I don't die on the way there. But if I don't have grace on, I die 3/4 of the way through, and then I have to run through the whole zone again, and it's and I don't want to do that. So grace, I think, really, really good quality of life. You could throw in anger if you're like very confident in your ability to dodge those spines, or, you know, just to dodge things in general. Anger is going to give you a lot of damage. Grace, I like. Herald of Ice, I think, is the easiest herald to take because it's green, and we're going to be looking at only green items largely. You know, we're going to be looking at largely dex items because we're a dex build. So I think Herald of Ice is the easiest one. Precision, obviously, is pretty much mandatory if we're taking precise technique. So that's the skill setup. The one other thing I would suggest you get after you've killed Malachi in Act 4 is Sniper's Mark, which you can pick up in Act 1, and you should pick it up in Act 1. I think it costs 1 transmute or 1 wisdom, one of the two. It's pretty cheap regardless, and you can mark bosses and it makes them take extra damage. But then Sniper's Mark and Mark on Hit. Now this is really, really good. It's a really, really good combo to take. It does require them to be linked, so you might have a bit of socket pressure because you've got, you know, 4 link here, a 4 link here, and then you want to have, you know, maybe 3 extra things here, and Sniper's Mark, Mark on Hit as an extra one. But Sniper's Mark, it does do a lot of damage. It does do a lot of damage. And then for movement skills, you get given dash, and I try to remove dash as quickly as possible. I want to be taking Frost Blink, and then I want to take Blink Arrow, because Blink Arrow, you can get across big gaps really, really easily with Blink Arrow. It's really useful in places like Merveil's Caverns. There's lots of maps where it's useful. There's a really good skip in Chamber of Sins. If you've seen it, then you've seen it. But there's a really, really good skip in lots of places. Blink Arrow it saves me, you know, several minutes on the campaign. Several minutes probably per act. You should be blinking. I don't blink enough, and people in my Twitch chat notice this and they tell me about it. But I think, yeah, Blink Arrow really good. Frost Blink, fantastic. Dash, I think dash is the worst movement skill, honestly. Frost Blink later on, maybe you're going to change that to Flame Dash, which is also very, very good. Like, Flame Dash is also fantastic. But yeah, Frost Blink to start with, and Blink Arrow as well. And that's basically all of the skills you need to worry about. So now let's talk a little bit about gear. For the campaign, I've put this stuff in here. This is, honestly, most of this is all, just take whatever rare items you can find. For bows, you want to, like Grove bows, Thicket bows, these are really, really good because they've got high attacks per second. And you don't care about crit chance. So like a spine bow is not that great because you don't care about crit chance. Or one of the ones with the, you know, the crit multi, like 50% crit multi implicit, like an assassin bow or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter too much because it's because we're not critting at all. So for the campaign, just take whatever rare items you find. I pick up almost every bow and ID it, and then I use is it Awaken Peewee Trade? I use Awaken Peewee Trade to price check it, and at the top of the price checking macro, it tells you, oh, this does this much DPS, and then I just know like how much DPS it does. So I can just say, okay, my current bow is 400, this one is 500, I'm using this new one. I try to avoid having anything socketed in my boots and my bow, because I think those two things are going to change the most. and I want to avoid having to try to resocket stuff or get the right colors or get the right sockets or the links or whatever. So I try to never have things. If I'm going to have a 4-link item, then that 4-link is going to be, you know, it's going to be my helmet, it's going to be my gloves, it's going to be my body armor. Those are the things I try to constantly have with, you know, get my skills linked in. So a thicket bow, honestly, I'm just picking up, like, if I see essences, hatred, anger, wrath, these essences, they just give flat damage. If I see those essences, I'm picking them up, and as soon as I get to a new act, then I'm taking, in every act, I think you get like a new base type for bows, and one of them's like the fast one, and one of them's the crit one. And so you can, you know, pick up maybe a grove bow, and just throw an essence on it, and then check, is it better than the one I've got? Yes, then I'm going to use it. And the same is true for quivers. I've got a serrated arrow quiver here. It doesn't matter what kind of quiver you take. Just have a look at the mods. Is it going to be better? Most of the time, like, I'm usually looking for, on my quiver in a campaign, I'm not really looking for flat damage. If it's got like a T2 flat damage roll, I'm going to be over the moon. But I'm largely looking for health and resistances. Stuff to make my quality of life easier. For our helmets, we're just going for, you know, armor evasion bases. Our body armor, just whatever you can get for links, honestly. I got 2-tone boots in here. I'm not sure why. But yeah. Even with huge resistance penalties, I think if we just actually look at all of the... So the bow and the quiver have no stats on them. And these are just like, yeah, 50 life. So mid-tier life roll and mid-tier 2 res for a helmet. And mid-tier, you know, the same for body armor, gloves. I think stun and block recovery on the gloves. And just 29 lightning resistance. Yeah, you could also even have life on those if you can imagine such a thing. For boots, yeah. For amulet, I'm always taking the lapis amulet. In Act 3, you get given a amulet reward from Lady Diala. Take the lapis amulet because it makes gearing so much easier. My frost blink is always level 1 because I don't want to have to deal with swapping a gear piece out and not being able to use a skill. So my Frostblink is always level 1. It just makes my life a lot easier. For rings, just, you know, like a mid-tier life roll and resistance. And these are, you know, this is stuff you will find during the campaign easily. For a belt, take a heavy belt because you get strength on it for free. It's really, really useful. And then you don't have to worry about strength so much. And this, even this, like, pretty terrible tier gear, this gives you 59 fire res, 73 cold, and slightly overcapped lightning resistance. You're going to find way better stuff than this during the campaign. This is with the minus 60% as well. So this is really, really very attainable, I would say. Not the 2-tone boots. Like, the 2-tone boots, just remove the fire and cold res on those. But this is very attainable gear. During the campaign, you will find stuff like this. For the crit swap, these are some... if you're in sort of self-found, this is not for you. But if you're in trade, then this is what I would recommend. Because once this build gets going, it really, really can get going, especially in maps. So I talked earlier on about the, you know, you do the swap when you have the bow. And what is the bow? I would say it's a spine bow base with 600 to 700, maybe 800 DPS total. Because then it's gonna, you know, the higher the base damage on the bow, then obviously the better it is. But it's gonna really, really feel good around that point. That's when it's gonna, and again, I like quality of life, and that's when it's gonna feel good, and that's what I want in the build. So when I get a, you know, 600, 700, 800 DPS bow on a good high crit chance base, and for that I'm talking like a spine bow. I think death bow is the second best, but a spine bow with a decent amount of damage on it. This one, oh, this is an example one, so it has, where's the total DPS? Is 536. you'd get something better than this. I think this is just what I made in Path of Building. So 6, 7, 800 total DPS, I think, is where you want to swap. For a quiver, the Poised Prism is great. It's not the best. It's not the best. But after 10, 12 hours, this is like a 3C unique. It's really, really cheap. It has most of its value in the first, the first 4 of these on trade are going to go up for 1 divine. And they're not worth it. It's not worth it. So just get one of these. It's just quality of life. It gives you in between 50 and 25 all res, and it gives you a bunch of flat damage along with elemental damage with attack skills. It's a decent quiver. Later on you will get a much better quiver, but this is a decent one. For a hat, it's the same one it's the same hat from before. It's get some life and some resistances on it. That's all you need on your hat. For your body armor, you just want some life and some resistances. Probably want some chaos res on there as well. It's really nice. For the gloves, we're going with shadows and dust. This gives you rampage. It gives you crit strike chance. It gives you crit multi. It gives you, fizz attack damage, leeches mana, but it gives you rampage, and rampage is a kill streak mechanic. It's so good. It's so good. I cannot get over how good rampage is. I love it. And the more rampage stacks you get, the more attack damage you have, and the more speed you have as well. So the more movement speed you have. So rampage is really, really strong. I would highly recommend you experiment with it now. These gloves are like 1C. They'll be like 1C on League launch as well. They'll be, the first couple of pairs of clasped mitts, the Shadows and Dust, will also be 1C. They are a like 1 alch unique, basically the whole league. If you want some really, really good ones, go for some corrupted ones with like +1 frenzy is good. Attacks have like plus 0.7% crit chance is also pretty decent. Play around in Path of Building and see which one you like. For the boots, we're just going with move speed, we're going with resistances, we're going with life. That's it. It's just a really, really decent place to pick up some extra resistances. For our amulet, we're going with Here is Truth. And this gives us level 30 precision. So that means we're going to hit everything all the time. And it gives 100% increased mana reservation efficiency of precision. And bow attacks have Culling Strike. So Culling Strike means that if a enemy is hit and it's on 10% or less life, the hit will just kill it. It will just die. So it's like having a 7th link in your 6th link, or a 5th link in your 4th link, depending on what you're using. It's really, really good. The taming, I'm going to be using this because I love the amount of damage it gives you. I love the amount of resistances it gives you. If you like these are very expensive on League launch. I'm telling you right now, these are going to be at least a divine. The only way you can get them is from a vendor recipe. And for that, you need Beric's Grip, Beric's Pass, Beric's Respite. And you vendor all those 3 things and you get the taming back. This is going to be expensive. So maybe leave it out, but it's a lot of, it's a great amount of damage. It's a great amount of elemental resistances. But honestly, it is going to be very expensive. So if you don't want to take this, just take like a diamond ring, gives you extra crit chance. You can get some extra life. You can pick up life and resistances, or maybe some stats if you're missing them. You can also get a lot of flat damage on rings as well. So there's lots of opportunities on rings to fill out things on your build that you don't have. I'm going for Death Rush as well, because this gives you adrenaline for 3 seconds on kill, in between 1 to 3 seconds, depending on the roll on the Death Rush. Adrenaline is one of the strongest mechanics in the game. It's 5 times as good as Onslaught, because that's what it does. It gives you, adrenaline gives you 100% increased attack, cast, and move speed. So it's 5 times as good as Onslaught. And you can't get adrenaline from many places. Death Rush is one of them. These are going to be expensive rings on League launch. These are going to be very expensive. They're going to be a divine or 2, depending on the roll. So the recover life on kill, you don't really care about that too much. You don't need to worry about the roll on recover life, percentage of life on kill, because again, we've got this, I think, Blood Drinker. Yeah, Blood Drinker, we recover 2% of life on kill anyway. So we're getting a bunch of stuff already. But a Death Rush is going to be, if like me, you're going to be in the Sand Prison, in Dunes, busting out some legions, then this is going to be very strong for you. And for our belt, I think Prism Weave is fantastic. It's fantastic until it's not. You know, it's the same as the Poised Prism. It's the same meta. It's going to be really cheap on League launch, so really easy to pick up. Probably pick one up for an Alk or for a Chaos. It gives you a bunch of flat. It gives you elemental resistances. It's, you know, it's a twink item, and you get all this extra elemental damage with attack skill during any Flask effect as well. I don't know about you, but I'm usually under movement speed Flask effect, and it's a Rustic Sash, so it gives us global fizz damage as well. So it's really, really strong. I think this is something this is actually the item I will probably pay first for in the League, because it's a really decent amount of damage. It's like 15% increased damage, or 15% more damage rather, and Ellie res, and all res is really, really strong. When it comes to Flasks, I haven't filled them in because I think these are really up to you. I would say the mandatory ones are a crit flask, a diamond flask with, you know, with crit chance. That's, you want to be using that. Personally, I prefer a life flask with corrupting blood immunity. I have a movement speed flask with movement speed on it. I got a, you know, crit chance flask. I got a silver flask, because if you get a silver flask and you automate it with instilling orbs, then you can choose. Maybe you don't want to, but you can choose to drop these 3 points here for the onslaught and invest them elsewhere. So it's up to you to do that if you want to. And then like a Jade Flask, more evasion. We get a lot of evasion on this build. Our chance to evade hits is quite high. So if we look at our evade chance, 62%. So 62% chance to not get hit. And if you're using an evasion flask, that's going to go up significantly more. So that's what I think for the items. I think this is level 86 as well, and these items are, you know, very easily attainable items, with a couple of exceptions. And again, you don't have to take a Death Rush, you don't have to take a Taming. They're just really, really good. But the rest of the stuff, I would say this is very, very important. So this is what I would, and again, if you don't want to do Rampage, then don't do Rampage. So this is what I would say you should get. And in fact, you don't even need a Prism Weave either, or this. This is what you should get. So this is what you should get. I personally think that having these things makes my life better. The Rampage, honestly, it's so good. It's such a good mechanic. It's, once you try it, and you should try it in Standard or try it in, you know, Ancestor in the last couple of days. Try the build out. Let me know what you think. Like I said, we're live every day on twitch.tv/lifewithoutpants. So come and swing by, say hi. If you have questions, please come and ask them, because I've played this build so much that I probably already know what the answer to the question is. This build as well, I'm going to do, this is just the League starter part. So level 86, lots of people get to 86, and then they, you know, maybe you want to swap to, you want to just make some currency and then swap to a build that you want to, you know, do differently. I'm probably going to swap to Tornado Shot. I'm probably going to swap to Omni and Tornado Shot. And along the way to doing that, I'm probably going to put an Inspired Learning in here. And Inspired Learning, I think, is going to be really useful in ultimatums, or Headhunter is going to be useful in ultimatums. Who knows? But there's just, you know, you just need a few extra points. And then you can put an Inspired Learning in here. Really, really good. There's a lot of flex options in this build. So let me know what you think. Let's just do a really quick map, actually. So I can show you, like I said, this is the same build that we've only done like 6 hours on before. I've got I think it's a lava chamber here. I think this is a lava chamber map. Yes, it is. I just tried to alk it and it's already out. So this is the gear I have. Let's just do /played again so you can see. So 6 hours, 7 minutes, and 4 seconds. And this is just gear that I found off the floor. So here we go. This is 559 DPS is actually a very high DPS bow for my luck. So let's just jump into this lava chamber, and you can see how it clears, how it works. Oh, the envoy is here. Nice. Oh, is this where we get the astrolabe? No. So I'm using a Manaforged arrows setup as well here, and I think that's particularly good. I'll go over that at the after we've just done this map. But I think that's really, really useful. I fell in love with Manaforged arrows this league. You don't need it, but it adds quality of life. And again, I'm a big quality of life fan. I have my mana flask down here, but you can see I'm not actually using it because we get so much leech. I think the auras I have on right now are Herald of Ice and Grace, and we got a decent amount of life, a decent amount of mana, and a fairly decent amount of attack damage, I would say. I'm constantly forgetting to put my movement speed flasks on, but here's what I mean by just like I'm putting my artillery ballistas down, and they're just doing the work, and that's what I really like. So you could do that, and your Manaforged arrows setup fires off all the time, or you can actively shoot stuff. Here we are. We've got frenzy charges as well. Nice. Get some 6 sockets. 6 sockets. They are 1 6 socket is 1.5 chance orbs, and chance orbs are quite important. We're going to talk about our item filter a little bit in a second as well, but this map, this is a monster level 74, so this is a level 7 map. I believe this is going to be Maven witnessed as well, so it's possible that we might die. This is not one of my favorite map bosses, I gotta say. I'm just going to put this here for reasons. So you can just put down a bunch of totems, and yeah, oh, it's ghosted as well. Oh man, that's fantastic. So we could just put down some totems, and the damage is decent, especially on something that's Maven witnessed and ghosted. I'm surprised. And again, see here, I'm standing right next to the monster, and you don't need to do that. It's a bad idea. I also have Culling Strike on my Manaforged, so at some point this guy is going to get down to, we just got down to 10% 10% health, and then they just died straight away. So let's get out of here. We've done our Maven witness. We've got our Maven boss fight. Should we do the Maven boss fight real quick? We could do that just to make sure that you know that this is a decent build of some variety. I'm still honestly, I'm shocked this actually survived the patch notes. So here we go. We got now these are actually a lot easier. Oh, I was just about to say it's a lot easier now. I'm standing still though, and that's one of the least good survival techniques there is standing still. So I'm just gonna move around a bit. But bosses in Maven's Arena can be significantly easier, I was gonna say. Man. It's pride. It's definitely my favorite sin. But map bosses in Maven's Arena can be significantly easier than in maps because they don't have all the modifiers that the maps had. But my ability to die is always very high. Is very good. I'm very good at dying. So now this guy's gonna die, and we get our point. I think we've rushed. Oh, this is the wandering path point. So now this is. I'll put out a video later on about what kind of wandering path strat to take. And this is what I mean about checking out bows. So here I'm like, oh, okay, I've got 559 total DPS, and then I just ID this one. I'm like, 131. It's probably not that good. I'll sell it. All right, so now let's talk about the loot filter a little bit. All right, I'm here in the Blood Aqueduct, back in, I think this is Standard or Ancestor League, and the item filter I'm using has a few things here. It's a version of, as the community always does, we build on each other. And we used, I started off using Tytykiller's fantastic ranged filter. It's really good. Would recommend. If you know what you're doing with loot filters, this section is maybe for you. And maybe you don't even need my loot filter changes. So, do whatever you want. If you have no idea what you're doing with loot filters, you could just skip this part, because it's like, I would recommend loot filter, really, really good thing to get accustomed to and get used to. But for Tytykiller's one, you'd get stuff like, you get this call outs for chaos, chance orbs. It wasn't enough for me because there weren't, I wanted some other ones, so I put in Crom,
alchemy.
There's a few others. I've changed the look of some of them as well. So the alchemy is looks more silvery. It just allows me to easily identify stuff, and I've also got minimap icons for a lot of things as well. Jewelers. So that's me saying this. Some of the ones from Tytykiller's are a little low as well, so I made some of mine a bit more shouty. That's not a particular one. Alt is great. So I've made a lot of changes to just the purely the currency stuff, and also I've made some changes to how the gear looks in maps. So let's just take a map here, and like a tier 8 map. Bone Crypt, Castle Ruins. That's a nice big open map. Yeah.
I'm not up to that just yet.
So the main things that I have changed are, because I want to go pretty fast, I'm almost exclusively highlighting bases with, I'm going to put /standy on here. I'm almost exclusively highlighting bases with evasion on them. So if we just wander around and we kill a lot of stuff, we'll see here. So there's a silken hood, but there's a lot of other stuff on the ground. I think, yes, spine bow, obviously that's going to show up because that's, a bow we want to check out, see what kind of damage it's got. 500, it's pretty good. But then this tempered foil, this will never show up. This maelstrom staff, it's a two-handed weapon. I have no interest in two-handed weapons that aren't bows. So, a shield. I'm never going to use a shield. I'm a bow build. So I've hidden a lot of stuff, and the visual clarity it brings is quite useful. Obviously, we could just kill this boss here, and he's dropped just the sharkskin tunic and ambush mitts. And that's because they both have evasion on, because we want the evasion bases. And if we hold down Alt, we can see here he's actually dropped way more stuff. But if I'm going to zoom through the maps, I want to only see bases that I can probably use, and then I want to keep going. And when I get to a boss, I'm for most of my maps I'm going to be boss rushing, and then I'm going to portal out. And at this point, I would just pick up these things, and I would just do this, and then leave. And that's exactly how I play, and that's what this loot filter reflects. So I'm going to make sure there's a shared link to it down below. I'm also going to include the sound effects that I'm using against my better judgment, but that's going to be in the description below as well. If you don't know about loot filters, don't worry about this. Honestly, just use Tytykiller's ranged filter. I will put a link to that as well. That's a really good filter, really good if you're playing a ranged character, or just a general dex character, I would say. And if you have no idea what any of those things are, then familiarize yourself with loot filters. Go to Neversink's filterblade.xyz. It's a fantastic resource. If I just go to my web browser here, it's always the first tab. It's always the first tab. And you could just use you could use soft or regular to go through the campaign, honestly. That's what I would do. And then once you get into like, you know, yellow maps, then you go to semi-strict, and then maybe, you know, high tier red maps, you go to strict. It's up to you. But I'm going to make sure that this filter is in the description, so check it out if you want. Okay, I talked a little bit about Manaforged setup, or I mentioned it before, and Manaforged arrows is a very useful skill. It's one of my third setup I have here. So Manaforged arrows allows you to trigger other bow gems that are linked to Manaforged arrows when you spend XYZ amount of mana on other bow skills. So Artillery Ballista is a bow skill. Lightning Arrow is a bow skill. So we're already spending a lot of mana on bow skills. So triggering other bow skills with Manaforged arrows is great. And what are we going to trigger? I use Rain of Arrows because Rain of Arrows has big, like, you know, it hits lots of stuff. It fires, you know, 20 arrows just onto the ground. And that's great clear. I found that like lots of people level through the campaign with Rain of Arrows. I can't blame them. It's great. It's a great skill. So Rain of Arrows, it essentially just hits lots of stuff all the time. Brilliant. And I use Culling Strike support for Rain of Arrows as well. So supported skills deal, you know, some increased damage, but kill enemies that have 10% life or lower when hit by supported skills. So we're spending lots of mana on bow skills. We're triggering our Rain of Arrows through Manaforged arrows, and that has Culling Strike. So that means whenever when you get to Eater or Exarch, you have to do 10%. Yeah, you just have to get them down to 10%, and then one Manaforged arrows hit will kill them straight away, outright. 10% just gone. Fantastic. Obviously, this is less useful if you're using the Hero's Truth Amulet because bow attacks have Culling Strike, so you don't really need this setup then. But this is just to start with during the campaign. It's really, really useful, and it means that, you know, problematic map bosses, they just die 10% quicker. It's really, really useful. I'm using Life Tap here as well, so that I don't, like, you know, destroy all my mana, and it also gives more damage to the skills when we have Life Tap. So this is what I mean by Manaforged arrows setup. I think it's really useful, and it's a great choice for a third 4-link if you have one. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. But if you do, then this is a great setup to have. You could also choose, when you make the crit swap, you could throw in like power charge on crit here, or yeah, there's a lot of options you can play around with. But this is what I mean when I talk about Manaforged arrows. All right, and that's it for this. It's such a good build. I really hope you try it out. It's such a great league starter. You can transition into lots of other things with this build as well. All of the details are going to be in the description below. So if you need a POB, if you want any information, stop by the stream. Where, you know, like I said, live every day on twitch.tv/lifewithoutpants. Swing by and say hi, because we love to answer build questions. We have most of the answers that you're probably looking for. And I'm going to put some more videos out in the coming week as we get more information about 3.23. Maybe one of the transfigured gems is going to be particularly good for us because we don't really have access to many of them right now. I'm going to also do a how to swap from this to Tornado Shot build guide. No, just like a quick video, I think, on how to swap from this to Tornado Shot, because that's what I'm going to be doing. Or I'm probably going to be doing. I don't know yet, but it's very, very likely that that's what I'm going to be doing. So if you want more about this, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what kind of content you want to see. But with that, I hope you're kind to everyone you meet. I love you all very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.